In the cryptic corners of the digital world, a unique figure shrouded in mystique and horror has emerged, leaving a profound impact on society: the Slender Man. This spectral entity, born and bred in the fertile ground of the internet, intricately intertwines folklore, collective creativity, and fear, effectively delimbing the boundaries of reality and fiction. Today, we shed light on the Slender Man legend to understand its origins, its disquieting allure, and above all, to explore how this digital age phantom has sent ripples of influence throughout global culture. Join us as we delve deep into the shadows, tracing how this virtual boogeyman has managed to imprint a mark in real-world incidents and conversations, revolutionizing our communal perception towards cyber mythology. On June 10th of 2009, on a thread in Something Awful forum, a Photoshop contest was taking place that would forever change the world. Users of the thread were challenged to create paranormal images using Photoshop to strike fear in anyone who came across them. Eric Knudsen, under the pseudonym Victor Surge, contributed 2 black and white images of groups of children, to which he added a tall, thin, spectral figure wearing a black suit. It was the only submission to the contest that also included text, which caught people's attention. The quote under the first paragraph read, "We didn't want to go, we didn't want to kill them, but its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time. 1983, photographer unknown, presumed dead." The quote under the second paragraph read, "One of 2 recovered photographs from the Sterling City Library blaze, notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanish and for what is referred to as the Slender Man. Deformities cited as film defects by officials. Fire at library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence. 1986, photographer Mary Thomas, missing since June 13th, 1986. Which was the day I was born, so I feel a special connection to this story. Anyway. Knudsen was inspired to create the Slender Man primarily by Zach Parsons' That Insidious Beast, Stephen King's The Mist, reports of shadow people, and Mothman. Other inspirations for the character were the tall man from the 1979 film Phantasm, H.P. Lovecraft, the surrealist work of William S. Burroughs, and the survival horror video games Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Another interesting thing was it reminded people of The Question, a DC comic superhero with a blank face, whose secret identity is Victor Sage, a name similar to Knudsen's alias Victor Surge, and therefore some sources have wondered if this was where Knudsen got inspired for not only the character he created, but his pseudonym for the forum. Slender Man soon went viral, spawning numerous works of fan art, cosplay, and online fiction known as creepypasta, horror stories told in short snatches of easily copyable text that spread from site to site. Divorced from its original creator, the Slender Man became the subject of countless stories by multiple authors within an overarching allegory. In 2012, the Slender Man was adapted into a video game titled Slender: The 8 Pages. Several popular variants of the game followed, including Slender Man Shadow and Slender Man for iOS, which became the second most popular app download. The sequel to Slender, The 8 Pages, entitled Slender, The Arrival, was released in 2013. Several independent films about the Slender Man have been released or are in development, including Entity and The Slender Man, released free online after a $10,000 Kickstarter campaign. Because the Slender Man's fictional mythology has evolved without an official canon for reference, his appearance, motives, habits, and abilities are not fixed, but change depending on the storyteller. Early stories featured him targeting children or young adults. Some featured young adults driven insane or to act on his behalf, while others did not. And others claim that investigating the Slender Man will draw his attention. Typically, the Slender Man preys on children and those who become obsessed with his existence, though no one knows exactly what happens to the bodies since no one has ever escaped from an encounter with him. The web series Marble Hornets established the idea of proxies, humans who fall under the Slender Man's influence, though initially they were simply violently insane rather than puppets of the Slender Man. Marble Hornets also introduced the idea that the Slender Man could interfere with video and audio recordings, as well as the Slender Man symbol, which became a common trope of Slender fiction. Graphic violence and body horror are uncommon in the Slender Man mythos, with many narratives choosing to leave the fate of his victims obscure. Due to this, anyone can make a Slender Man story. Anyone can help create this character and make him do anything, and that is the true appeal he has to the masses. In fact, stories about Slender Man are still being shared on the internet today. If you go to the Creepypasta fandom wiki, the story you will be met with is called The Tall Man, and it reads, I know of an old Romanian fairy tale, highly unpopular even in its earliest iterations. It might be based on a particular event, or perhaps it is extrapolation from existing Slenderman stories. The translation I'm most familiar with goes a bit like this. Upon a time, there were twin girls, Stella and Serena. They were brave little girls and had no fear of the dark, nor of spiders and other crawling things. When other young ladies and even young boys would cower, Stella and Serena would walk with their heads held high. They were good girls, obedient to their mother and father and to the word of God. They were the best children a mother could ask for, and this was their undoing. Stella and Serena were out with their mother gathering berries from the forest. Their mother bid them stay close to her, and they listened. And they were good children. The day was bright and clear, and even as they walked closer to the center of the forest, the light barely dimmed. It was nearly bright as noon when they found the Tall Man. The Tall Man stood in a clearing, dressed as a nobleman, all in black. Shadows lay over him, dark as cloudy midnight. He had many arms, all long and boneless as snakes, all sharp as swords, and they writhed like worms on nails. He did not speak, but made his intentions known. Their mother tried not to listen, but she could no more disobey the Tall Man than she could forget how to breathe. She walked into the clearing, her daughter shortly behind her. Stella, she said, take my knife and cut a circle on the ground big enough to lie in. Stella, who was not afraid of the Tall Man, nor afraid of the quiver in her mother's voice, obeyed what her mother said. Serena, the mother said, take the berries and spread them in the circle and crush them underfoot until the juice stains the earth. Though Serena wondered why her mother asked her to do such a thing, she obeyed. She was a good girl. Stella, the mother said, lie in the circle. Stella, though she worried she might stain her clothes, did as her mother asked. Serena, the mother said, and bid Serena cut her sister open with the knife. Serena could not. Would not. Please, her mother said, if you don't, it will be worse, so much worse. But Serena could not, and she threw the knife away and ran home crying. She hid under her bed, afraid for the first time in her life. She waited until her father came home from the fields and told him of the terrible thing she had found in the woods. Her father comforted her and told her she would be safe. He went to the woods, his axe in hand, and as he commanded, she stayed by the hearth, waiting for his return. After some time, she fell asleep. When she woke, it was to the sound of knocking on her door at the darkest hour of night. "Who is there?" she said. "It is your father," the knocker said. "I don't believe you," said Serena. "It is your sister," the knocker said. "It cannot be," said Serena. "I am your mother," said the knocker, "and I told you it would be worse." And the door, locked tight before her father left, fell open as if it had been left ajar, and her mother stepped in, her sister's head clutched in one bloody hand and her father's in the other. "Why?" wept Serena. "Because," said her mother, "there is no reward for goodness. There is no respite for faith. There is nothing but cold steel teeth and scourging fire for all of us, and it's coming for you now." And the tall man slid from the fire and clenched Serena in his burning embrace. And that was the end of her. And this is just one version of the Tall Man, also known as the Slender Man story. The character may be fake, but he has also inspired some tragic real-life attacks. In the real world, this creepypasta figure became a key figure during an assault and subsequent criminal case in 2014 involving three 12-year-old girls. Wisconsin teens Anissa Weirer and Morgan Geyser lured their friend Peyton Leutner into the woods during a game of hide-and-seek. In a reported attempt to appease Slender Man, the duo stabbed Leutner 19 times and left her at the scene. Leutner managed to drag herself to a nearby road where a cyclist found her, and she was immediately taken to a hospital where she recovered from her injuries. Soon after the attack, Weirer and Geyser were arrested and tried for attempted second-degree murder. In 2017, Weirer was sentenced to 25 years in a mental institution, while her accomplice, Geyser, was sentenced to 40 years in a mental hospital in 2018. The stabbing in Waukesha spawned a nationwide moral panic over Slender Man across the United States. Parents nationwide became worried about the potential dangers that stories about Slender Man might pose to their children's safety. Although the stabbing in Waukesha is the most heard of Slender Man murder, there have been several other creepy, in real-life Slender Man stories. An unidentified woman from Cincinnati, Ohio, told a TV reporter in June of 2014 that her 13-year-old daughter had attacked her with a knife and had written macabre fiction, some involving the Slender Man, who the mother said had motivated the attack. On September 4th, 2014, a 14-year-old girl in Port Richey, Florida, allegedly set her family's house on fire while her mother and 9-year-old brother were inside. Police reported that the teenager had been reading online stories about Slender Man, as well as Atsushi Akubo's manga Soul Eater. Eddie Daniels of the Pasco County Sheriff's Office said the girl had visited the website that contains a lot of the Slender Man information and stories. It would be safe to say there is a connection to that. During an early 2015 epidemic of suicide attempts by young people ages 12 to 24 on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, Slender Man was cited as an influence. The Oglala Sioux tribe president noted that many Native Americans traditionally believe in a suicide spirit similar to the Slender Man. Other Sioux described the Big Man as a messenger or sign, warning that society is developing a dangerous direction. So, perhaps Slender Man has made an appearance on our earth and is tormenting our children in order to be a messenger to warn us that society is developing in a dangerous direction. Or maybe he's purely internet folklore and a fun story to tell your friends on Halloween. Let me know what you think down below, and have a happy Halloween.